Lesson 26, I can find the percent of a quantity. I can solve problems involving finding the whole when given a part and the percent. So if it tells us, for example, the jeans were 10% off, which was a savings of $8, how much was the total cost of the jeans? That's the type of problems we're going to be looking at today. So we'll be looking at finding the whole. Let's get started. Example 1, 5 of the 25 girls on Alden Middle School's soccer team are 7th grade students. Find the percentage of 7th graders on the team. Show 2 different ways of solving the answer. One of the methods must include a diagram or picture model. All right, so let's take a look again at what do we know so far. We know that 5 out of the 25 girls on the soccer team are 7th grade students. So 5 out of the 25 girls on the team are 7th grade students. We want to know the percentage of 7th graders. So we want to get this number to a percent, which is going to be a denominator of 100. Okay, and then we know whatever number is our numerator, that will be our percent. So one thing that I notice here is I can determine how to get from 25 to 100 because I can multiply 25 by 4 to get 100. So if I do the same thing with the other number, I multiply it by 4, I know that 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, so this method worked really well. I was able to determine that 20% of the girls on the soccer team are 7th grade students. Now, however, the problem does ask us to show 2 different ways, and one of the 2 ways must be a diagram or a picture model. So I'm also going to, so if that was one way to solve the answer, for the other way to solve the answer, let's do a tape diagram. So in order to do a tape diagram, I don't want to draw 25 boxes and box in 5 of them. I can simplify this down. So let's find the unit rate here, or the value. So the value of this fraction, I want to get it to the lowest possible form. So I can see that I can divide both sides by 5 and reduce this down to 1/5. Okay, so 1/5 of the girls on the soccer team are 7th grade students. So now I can draw a tape diagram, split it into 5 equal parts. Okay, 1/5 of them is 7th grade students. And I know that that is 5 students, 5 out of the 25. So if this whole thing is 100%, all 25 students is 100%, I want to figure out what is the percent of students on the soccer team. So 100, let's find the value of each box. 100 divided by 5, 5 goes into 10 2 times, and 5 goes into 0 0 times. Okay, so I know the value of each box now is 20%. So since we're only looking for one box, I don't need to multiply anything. I can just clearly see that 1/5 of the students would be 20%. Example 2, of the 25 girls on the Alden Middle School soccer team, 40% also play on a travel team. How many of the girls on the middle school team also play on a travel team? Okay, so in this example, we are given the percent and we want to know what the quantity is of that percent. So we know that 40%, which as a fraction is 40 over 100, 40% of 25. Now, it's not going to be pretty to do 40% times 25 over 1 just like that. Now, so one thing I can do is I can reduce this number down to make this a little easier for myself. So 40 over 100, that can reduce down to 4 over 10, which I notice can reduce even further to 2 over 5, 2/5. Okay, so now this is a lot easier to do the multiplication. So again, 2/5 of the 25 students, I want to know how many that is. So now it's a little easier to do the multiplication. 2 times 25 is 50, and 5 times 1 is 5. 50 over 5 equals 10. So 10 girls also play on a travel team. 40% of the 25 is 10 girl. One other way I could have done that is I could have went, okay, so 40 over 100 equals how many out of the 25? Because that's basically what I wanted to know. So I could tell that 100, to get to 25, I could divide by 4. So if I do the same thing to 40, if I divide by 4, I get 10. So that's another way to see 10 of the 25 girls is equivalent to 40 over 100. In other words, 40%. Example 3, the Alden Middle School girls soccer team won 80% of its games this season. If the team won 12 games, how many games did it play? So we're looking for the whole. Solve the problem using at least 2 different methods. So we know that they won 80% of the games, which was 12 games. So 80% of their games equaled 12 games. Okay. We need to figure out how many games they played in all, which is the whole. That's what we want to know. We need to solve using at least 2 different methods. So if I want to know, let's start with a tape diagram. So for a tape diagram, first I need to figure out how many parts I'm splitting it into. So let's look at 80% is 80 over 100. That can reduce down to 8/10. Okay, it can reduce down even further though to 4/5. So in this one, we're looking for a quantity, not a percent. So I'm splitting it into 5 equal groups, and 4 of them is at 80%, which was 12 games. So that right there, that's 12 games, which is what they won. We don't know this portion here, how many games they lost. And we need that information to figure out the total, the whole amount of games they played. So I do have enough information here so far to move forward with that. Now again, if I was looking for a percent, I would take 100%, I would divide it amongst 5. I'd get that each was worth 20. I determine this is 80%, and I'd therefore be right back where I started. So we're not looking for a percent here. We're looking for a quantity. We're looking at how many games that they lost and how many games altogether. So we need to be looking at the numbers here that we have. So again, 12 games is how many they lost. So I want to figure out the value of each of these by dividing that number 12 amongst these 4 groups here. So 12 divided by 4, 4, 8, 12. Oh yeah, that's 3. So each of these can be represented by 3 games. So if they won 80%, that's 12 games. So how many they lost is 3 games. Now that doesn't answer our total question. We want to know how many, let me pick a different color. We want to know how many games did they play, this whole thing all together. So 12 plus 3 gives me 15 games total, or 15 games in all. Okay, now that's one way, but they specifically asked us to solve it in 2 ways. So another way that I could determine this is by looking at the percentage and as a fraction. So again, I'm going to reduce this down because if I look at 80 over 100 and I want to know how many 80% of the games was 12 games out of how many, I don't know. Now, it's not easy for me to go, okay, 80 divided by what is 12? I don't know that. That's not an easy That's not easy math to do. So I want to reduce this down. I bet you guys don't miss that bell. So 80 over 100 reduces down to 8 over 10, reduces down to 4/5. So I can use that now. 4/5 equals 12 out of how many total? 4 times 3 is 12. So 5 times 3 is 15 total games. So now I have the answer in 2 different ways. For the next one, exercise 1, there are 60 animal exhibits at the local zoo. What percent of the zoo's exhibits does each animal class represent? So the total here, we are given the whole this time. There's our whole. There's 60 animal exhibits. So we're going to use this part and our whole to generate a fraction, and that will give us the percent. So let's take a look. 30 out of the total 60, what's the percent there? Well, I want to get this over out of 100 to find the percent. So first I'm going to reduce it down. 30 over 60 reduces to 3/6, reduces down even further to 1/2. So now I can easily get that over 100. 2 times 50 is 100. 1 times 50 is 50. So 50%, 50 out of 100. For the next one, 15 exhibits are reptile and amphibians out of 60 total. So I'm going to reduce this down. I can divide both sides, I know off the top of my head, by 3. So divide by 3 is 5, divide by 3 is 20. Oh, nope, that can reduce down even further. Divide both these by 5, so 1 over 4. Now I can get that over 100. 4 times 25 is 100, so 1 times 25 is 25. 25%. 12 out of 60, that can reduce down. I can divide both sides by 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. 60 divided by 3 is 20. Oh, can reduce down even more. Can divide both sides by 4. So 1 over 5. And I could get that over 100. 5 times 20 is 100. So 1 times 20 is 20. 20%. And 3 over a total of 60 for bird exhibits. So that can reduce down to 1 over 20. I can divide both sides by 3. And I can get that to 100. 20 times 5 is 100, so 1 times 5 is 5. 5%.